do want to talk about spirituality and religion because you grew up Mormon and we grew up Jewish. And, to us, at least Scouts' relationship to God is like completely separate from religion and from what we know about Judaism. And then my relationship with Judaism is more cultural in the sense of the community and the traditions. But I want to hear about you because you grew up in this, like, I think very like strict religion, and then you kind of break free from it. You're traveling the world, you have a baby, now you're getting married. It's like, it felt like you went a little bit against the grain, or maybe like what you were taught when you were growing up. So I want to hear about what is your relationship to that religion now, and have you sought out spirituality in other realms?
I am so happy you asked because no one has ever really asked me about this, and I feel like I'm finally at a place where I am not terrified to talk about it. And I don't know if either of you can relate, but like that's like the heavy burden religion has been on my life. And so being able to be at a place where I'm not terrified of speaking about it is pretty exciting, and I've been so excited to talk about it. So I grew up Mormon in Linden, Utah, which is about as Mormon as it gets in the whole world. I didn't know that you couldn't be Mormon until I was probably like 10. Like, I thought everyone was. It's just the way of life. And the Mormon way of life it's great. It's like, I had a great childhood. It was so happy. I was so surrounded by so much love. Like, I had a very privileged, happy childhood. The hardest part was I just bought in since day one. I was so into my religion. I gave everything to it. It was everything to me. And I think part of it was because I've always been so spiritual. I've had spiritual connection to God. I mean, I've prayed every single day since I was 7 years old. I've just always had a very close relationship to God, and therefore was a devout Mormon. I was so religious. And after high school, I do feel like I have the personality where I do kind of always go against the grain. But what's interesting is that in the church, I was so obedient, and I was going to go on a mission, which is where you like leave for 2 years to go to another country and teach the gospel. I was going to get married in the temple. I had all the plans of staying in the Mormon faith for the rest of my life. And then I started to travel and experience the real world. And I think coming from, they call it a bubble. They call it the Utah bubble. It's so sheltered. And so leaving that, my first trip was to Thailand when I was in high school. So that kind of shock, it opened my eyes a lot. And I think in the most profound way was just having the realization, instead of there being one truth, which is what I had been taught my whole life, that the Mormon church is the right church, it's the true church, everyone else is wrong, and how sad for them because they'll never be truly happy. That's what I grew up being taught. And then going to India and going to Africa, seeing all these different ways of life, all these different beautiful religions. I would read about, I remember walking around a mosque in Turkey and just crying at how beautiful what I was reading around this museum, and just thinking how universal a lot of it was. I related to so much of it when I had just been so turned off and had tunnel vision that anything else was bad and not true. I actually think it was that day in the mosque where I had the realization of maybe we're all right. Instead of maybe we're all wrong and there's one right, maybe we're all right. How can I judge, someone in India who has never heard of Jesus Christ or Mormons, or it just opened my eyes in such it sounds probably insane, but I was so sheltered, you have to understand. And I since then struggled with just one foot in, one foot out, like how to reconcile my entire life in this faith. And I think having a baby and getting together with my boyfriend really like solidified my confidence in myself and my spirituality. Once you have a kid, you really have to take that shit seriously. And I think what it came down to was, do I want my child going to a church that I would have to teach him other things afterwards? Like, hey, wait, what did you learn today? Okay, so actually, we're gonna learn this instead. I didn't understand, like, if I wouldn't want it for myself, why I would want it for my child. That was, I mean, he's almost 2 now, and it's just been amazing to have that freedom to explore, which, like I said, I had a great childhood. I had a great life. I didn't have a terrible experience in the church like a lot of people do, but I don't think I was free to be who I was, and who I wasn't free to even explore that person. And now I am. That's kind of just how I feel about spirituality. I don't know how I feel about religion. There's a lot of things that are questionable to me, but at least I have the freedom to explore all of those things now and figure out what does feel true to me. And sorry, I just went on I feel like a preacher after that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm eating up every word.
Religion, lonely ghost, religion.
Oh, we go all over. We
go all over.
Yeah.
So do you still pray today? And if so, what does your prayer practice look like?
Yeah, no, so I think the biggest thing, and if I have anyone that's struggling with leaving the church, especially Mormonism, listening, the one thing I'll say is that spirituality it's that personal relationship with God, and to me that was not exclusive to the church. So leaving the church was scary because I was like, okay, so everything I grew up feeling and knowing is gone. It was a lie. And I'm like, no, it wasn't. I get to keep all of these things. Like, the church doesn't get to gatekeep all of these spiritual experiences I had from my childhood. Those things were real. Those things still happened. My prayers were still answered. If anything, it just gives me more faith and more confidence in my relationship to God and to Source and to my angels. And I just think people need to remember that you can still keep the things that felt good and true to you after you leave religion. And so, yeah, I pray every single day. I still pray like I did when I was 7. I say, Dear Heavenly Father, because that's how we prayed. But I truly believe that God shows up in whatever way we need. And it's like I was saying about speaking the language. I think God speaks to us in the language that we need at the time. And for a lot of years, that was through Mormonism. And I don't believe that those experiences are void just because I have found some things out and believe differently now. I believe that's how God was choosing to show up for me, because that's where I was at.